And then cold emails, like what's the strategy there? Because I send them out daily. I'd love to be able to get more responses.
First off, the subject line, getting curiosity, getting them interested enough to open and look at the body. So it's like an advertisement for the email. That's all a subject line is an advertisement for the email. So like given that, like what really cuts through, like, humor often can cut through, but it's gotta be like funny. People try and do really weird random stuff sometimes. I'm trying to think of what this guy was like, some like email about his like wife's panties or something. This guy kept trying to use this weird subject line to get my attention.
Welcome to the Digital Social Hour. I'm your host, Sean Kelly. I'm here with my co-host, Wayne Lewis.
What up, what up?
And our guest today, Stefan Georgi.
What's up, guys?
Fine, how you doing, man?
Doing well. How are you?
Pretty good, man.
Copywriting king.
Copywriting king.
Yeah.
Over $1 billion in copywriting.
Sheesh.
Let's dive into how that happened.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess it starts in Vegas, right? So my dad passed away in 2011, and I went to Vegas a little bit after that to blow off steam. And I met a girl at a poker table. She was the copywriter. I didn't know anything about copywriting, but we ended up dating. And then I took a job in South Florida. I was making like $200 a day. I'd come home from, it was an outside sales job. So I was driving around in traffic, all that. And, she was like in her underwear drinking a beer, and she made like $1,200 in the same day. And so I was like, I want to try that out. Like, what is copywriting? I really, like, I knew that she wrote like ads kind of, but I didn't really know, like what it meant. So I basically wrote like an ad. My first piece of copy ever was an ad for somebody to hire me as a copywriter. And I think I charged like $147 for basically to write an ad for somebody. And I put it up, and I woke up the next morning and I had like $298 in my PayPal.
Website? What was it?
It was on a website called Warrior Forum, which I think is still kind of around. But it was like a lot of like, honestly, it's funny. It was like people making like little SaaS products, but they weren't valued like from an enterprise level. It was sort of, Facebook, like ad scraper, like, this tool that goes through and scrapes all the ads, and a lot of kind of like DIY stuff before Facebook had those tools and a lot of stuff like that. So people needed, they'd create these products, they'd hire a copywriter to write the ad that they put on the forum, and then other people would buy it. And if they made like $1 million on a launch, that'd be like a really big deal for them most of the time. But it was great for somebody just starting out for sure. And so that's how I dove in. And, that was like 2012, I guess. And then I sort of, I don't want to go too deep or too long on the story, but, I just sort of went on Upwork right at the time. I was Elance and started getting clients there, and I would sort of do whatever. So people might be like, I did like research. I wrote people's college papers. I did like anything, like whatever it was. OnlyFans wasn't around at the time, so couldn't show make money, but I had to figure something out. And, but I kept going back to copywriting, got hired by this company out of Romania that was like doing informational products. So like ebooks, guides on stuff, like everything from alternative health to like investing. Like I wrote like a Bitcoin, like a guide and sort of like how to make money with Bitcoin thing in 2014, which we, by the way, never published. And then I've been looking back at that in hindsight, like that was, like I probably should have followed that.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
You just wrote an article on how to make money from Bitcoin in 2014.
Yeah. So my wife was like, by 2013, she was into Bitcoin.
Bro, it was like $20, right?
Yeah. Like she was using it to play online poker basically. And I'm like, this is, like everyone, I'm like, oh, this is kind of dumb, whatever. But then, it was starting to get more momentum, and I had another friend who was into it. So I basically pitched the publisher like, hey, let's do a guide on how to trade Bitcoin. And it was like, there was no like Coinbase or things like that at the time. Right. So, it was like much more technical. So like created like a guide, and then wrote like a, sales letter, like an ad for, hey, you could make money by buying Bitcoin. Yeah. But it was so early, I guess, that like they never ended up publishing it, and I didn't really push for it. But it was cool basically with that role with these guys is like their entire thing was like, we have the team, we can create like, informational products, books, guides for really whatever topic. So they're like, you just come to us with ideas and then we'll make the product. You just write the advertisements for it. Right. So like, everything from like sports betting to like health stuff to law of attraction stuff to like self-defense, really any kind of niche or category, like how to make your own alternative energy, like engines, like just all kinds of weird shit. And so it's kind of neat because I really got like a wide breadth of experience, I guess. And they ended up doing 100 million their first year, and then based on that copy, and had a lot of success after that. And
wow.
Yeah, I just sort of kept going. I can, that was up to about 2014, 2015. But yeah.
Wow. And then from there, you left on your own and started doing jobs on your own, right?
Yeah, exactly. I started some of my own companies. Like I started a supplement company that did pretty well, and partnered in some companies and did client stuff, did some agency work, a lot of things.
And now with the emergence of AI, do you see that disrupting the copywriting industry massively?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Like, are you nervous at all?
I'm not nervous because I embraced it really fast. So
you're using it right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, we started like we started a new agency like 6 months ago that's already like done multi-million, like several $1 million, and like it's purely like AI. Like we're doing short form, long form copy. We just jumped right on it immediately, and so we're in like a leadership position where then we're helping other like copywriters and marketers and stuff. But it's really interesting because there's still a lot of people who like think it's a fad or who don't understand it. And it's very weird to see.
The older people, right?
Yeah, older,
even young
people
even
too.
younger too. I had somebody tell me AI, you're panicking over AI. Told me I was panicking, which I wasn't. I was just enlightening them. Told me that you're worried about something that's going to happen 10 years from now, or like some 50 years from now. And I'm like, no, it took them 50 years to get to this point.
Yeah, facts. It's already happening for sure.
Yeah, it's happening now for sure.
Yeah, some people think it's a fad because I guess what happened with Web3, but I think AI is here to stay.
I mean, it definitely is. It's a good tool, right? And right now, it's like for copywriters, marketers, whatever, it's like the perfect like complement to what you do, you know? It's like it can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. You still need to have ideas. You still need to kind of understand how to piece things together, and you're more of like a strategist, and it's more of an executor. And that's really powerful. And also knowing how to talk to it, right? Like we have prompts that we use that are like 2,000 words long. Like, I mean, extremely long prompts where we're basically giving it really detailed sets of directions. It's really like you're like a human, like the new programming language is like English basically, right?
Yeah.
And so you're basically like a coder now, which is great for me because I was never super mathematically inclined, but I'm extremely like verbally inclined, right? And so this is like, I'm like a special place in time, I think. But again, it's about embracing it. I see a lot of people who aren't, and I think,
I think it's scary.
Yeah.
I think it's scary.
There's disruption for sure.
Yeah, you said coding. I didn't even think about it. AI could affect programmers' jobs.
Well, no,
it definitely is.
No, it is affecting programmers' job, but he's saying us inputting the information or what we wanted to actually do is actual code.
Right. It's like HTML.
Like natural language programming.
Yeah, but it's natural language. So
because the prompting's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as soon as you have to write prompts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I'll type a sentence and then it'll come out bad, but then I'll type like a paragraph.
Yeah.
And I got a whole legal document ready to go.
Exactly. So it actually responds better when it's more detailed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then for cold emails, like what's the strategy there? Because I send them out daily. I'd love to be able to get more responses.
So when you say cold, I mean, you have like a list of people who have never heard from you before at all, or?
Yeah, list of people I want to get on the podcast. Maybe it's a brand that I want to work with, stuff like that.
I mean, I think, it's the same with whether you're selling the podcast or product or anything. It's like, first off, the subject line, and like really all the subject line is like, getting curiosity, getting them interested enough to open and look at the body. So it's like an advertisement for the email. That's all a subject line is an advertisement for the email. So like, given that, like what really cuts through, like, humor often can cut through, but it's gotta be like funny. People try and do really weird, random stuff sometimes. I'm trying to think of what this guy was like, some like email about his like wife's panties or something. This guy kept trying to use this weird subject line to get my attention, and it got my attention, but it was like the wrong way. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know, like you seem kind of weird. I'm not gonna reply. So, but it's got to be like funny, or it's got to be maybe personal. You know what I mean? Like honestly, like something like even just like using somebody's name, right? And like, hey, like got a question for you, Sean, or like got a question, whatever, something like that. Like something that feels personal. Because I'd say maybe once a month I get like duped by one of those where I'm like, I know this is probably just like a BS solicitation, but it feels so personal and real that I still open it, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's just a solicitation. And then in the body copy, I think it's sort of like classic stuff like building rapport, connecting, like showing credibility, social proof, right? For saying like what you're doing with the podcast, like I don't know, you mentioned I think like the content from this podcast gets seen over 100 million times a month, right? So like it's a pretty impressive thing. Like that's like making sure you lead with that, and then what's in it for them, right? Because with all copy, it's always like the reader or the prospect's always thinking what's in it for me. And so the mistake we make a lot of times is like you have that 100 million views per month. That's a great stat. You want to get that in there, but then it's, so, how can this help them, their brand, their platform, or maybe in something deep, like what's like a cause? If you look and research, maybe they're passionate about a nonprofit, right? And if like, a lot of famous people, like the angle is all about, you can make money, or you can, and they're like, dude, I have a ton of money. I don't care about money. But like a nonprofit or something that's near and dear to their heart.
Yeah, it's emotional. It's an attachment. Yeah,
exactly.
I want to do.
Yeah. Speaking of emotion, you're really good at bringing emotion into copy, which is kind of hard to pull off, right?
Yeah.
Because copy is just words. How are you able to pull that off?
Man, I think I'm very empathetic naturally. I try to really, I used to call it like being like I think there's like a shaman where like they'd be called like skinwalkers, right? Where they put on like the pelt of like a wolf and they become the wolf or like whatever it is. And I try to really do that. And like when I'm really writing good copy, I really try to embody that person to the point where if I'm writing as a, angry 60-year-old woman, like I feel like, like I almost feel like that, or an angry 60-year-old man, I'm like almost like shaking with rage, or I'm feeling the emotion. I'm really trying to imagine myself like in that moment, and then I just try to really transfer that into the words that I write.
Gotcha.
Wow. And what was sort of your first like big breakthrough when you went off on your own and left that company that did 100 million?
Yeah, so I had a line of like health supplements where essentially the market for that company was like conservative Christian 50 plus, right? And still is their market. They're still around, still doing really well. But we were doing all informational products, and I sort of felt like, well, like I knew that health supplements were a big space, and I knew that market now pretty well. So I'm like, what if we just do, supplements for them? Because they're buying all these guides, but if you can give them high quality, supplements, maybe it can help them get better health outcomes or support their health or whatever. But since they're Christian, I'm like, why don't we just do like biblical supplements?
Yeah.
So basically I did like a line of supplements where the ingredients were all mentioned in the Bible. So like a biblical blood sugar supplement, and like a biblical weight loss supplement, and even like a like ED, like erectile dysfunction, is a big category, right? But I'm like, why can't, it's hard to sell like ED, like a lot of ED type of offers are kind of like about, I don't know if I can cuss it out, but they're kind of like crudely marketed, let's say. So like, but I read an article about this pastor in like Texas, I think it was in Texas, but his whole thing was bring God back into the bedroom, and how like God wanted you and your wife to be making love, and how that was sort of kept the family closer and all this stuff. So I was like, man, I read it like a year before, maybe 2 years before, but it really just stuck with me. So I created this one called Trinity X3 that was like for the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, but it was also for him, for her, and for both of you. And so the idea was it was like this biblical like intimacy supplement that could bring husband and wife together, so they were honoring God in the bedroom. And actually I crushed it with that, because then it was like, first of all, I didn't have to just sell to men, which cuts off half the market.
Right.
Second of all, like I gave them permission. We had a pastor guy as our spokesperson as well, so it was coming from him, and it was giving them permission to like be sexual and things like that.
Wow.
And so that one, so the blood sugar, all of them did pretty good. So I did like $1 million the first year, but I lost money. I almost like kind of quit and gave up or whatever. And then the second year we did like 23 million.
Jeez.
So we had a pretty
23x.
good hockey stick on that. And
And was that just you yourself, or you had a team?
I had a team. I mean, I was the sole owner of it, but I had a team and had to learn a lot of them too. But
And the margins are good in copy business, right?
Both in supplements and with copy in general. I mean, when you're writing the copy, your margins are super high. Obviously, it's just the time, right? The biggest problem copywriters run into is scaling time. Like I talk about right now, because we have this agency like that's doing well, but because I have two partners in that, it's like our margins are 65%, but then I'm splitting with two partners. And so currently it's like I could do like a quarter of the work, write like 2 to 3 sales letters a month and make $100,000 to $150,000 a month. I'm doing way more work than that currently, and I'm making like 30 or 40,000 a month on this agency. Now I'm doing it because if we keep scaling it, and the long-term upside is significantly higher, and we're incorporating AI, we're trying to do all these things where we want to sell that agency in like 18 months for like a big exit. But copywriting is like time is really your limiter, and then but with supplements, the margins are pretty good depending on how you acquire customers, but like 30%, maybe up to 40%, which is pretty good for a physical product.
Right.
Very good for e-commerce.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
With copywriting, you're trading time for money, though. I see what you're saying. It's like a limited scale, right?
Yeah, there's like a trap. And then a lot of people who, I think this is true for a lot of people who are really skilled, like, technicians, so to speak, they like they go to create an agency. So this is like my third agency that I'm doing now. And after the second one, I was like, I'm never doing an agency again.
Why?
I hate the agency model.
Why?
All this. Because it's, I mean, I don't like dealing with clients sort of. It's like a pain, you know, to have like, this is a lot of moving parts. You know, if you're hiring contractors, clients can be annoying, all these sorts of things. And I just found it to be a lot when I was like, I can just go in my cave and write and make a lot of money anyway, right? But then with AI, it was like, you know what, we can do this with a lot of high leverage, where, you know, we can produce more copy and do it more efficiently. And so I came back to it. But a lot of people, I think, and it's pretty valuable for people who listen or watch this, right? It's like they get really good at doing something, but they're tired of fulfilling because of the time thing. And like, man, I'm at this ceiling, right? And so then it's always like, well, I like the selling part. I love when people send me the money. That part's great. So they're like, you know, if I could just get other people to do the fulfillment, I can be the sales guy. It'll be great. But I think the mistake people make is like, they don't understand that an agency really is running a business, right?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
So suddenly it's like hiring, it's like, you know, managing those employees or contractors. You know, there's like the accounting stuff. You've also got to like work on the client satisfaction. There's just a lot of steps. And I think people become overwhelmed. The quality of the work slips. They actually end up making less money because they're redoing. They don't really know how to manage. So they redo the work, right? And this is true whether it's copy or like media buying or photography or whatever it is, right? They end up redoing a lot of it. And then they're actually making less per hour than if they had just never started an agency at all.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I don't like the agency model, to be honest, even as a customer.
Well, I mean, if it just depends on your business model. I mean, what works for you, that's what works. You know,
I'm talking about marketing agencies because with Facebook ads, they'll charge you monthly, right? And then a percent of your ad spend. The incentives aren't really aligned there.
But they're doing most of the work.
They're doing most of the work, but they don't care if you are not profitable or if you're, or the other way around, they don't care. They just want to get paid every month. You know what I mean?
But that's because most run it off their own template and what they feel like is a formula for them. But you have to cater to every different business. I mean, every different business has to be catered differently. Even from ads, you know, verbiage, anything. It just, I mean, but it depends on how much they care about your business.
For sure.
And that's the problem with a lot of them. I think that they care like on some like high level, but they've got too many things going on. So it's like you talk to the business owner and they're like, they care a lot, but then they've just got a bunch of employees or people who don't care
never had a business before, don't know the business, don't care about the business model, and just run a dry template, and hopefully you get some sales and return the next month or fulfill the contract and move on to the next.
100%. Let's get a little controversial here.
Let's do it.
I saw on your Facebook you tweeted out that taking Adderall changed your life.
Oh yeah.
Why are you such a fan of Adderall?
Well, because it changed my life, but yeah, I mean, so when I was here in Vegas in 2018, 19, and, you know, so I lived here for like 7 years in Vegas, and I got like seasonal depression, right? So like it was like sort of getting dark earlier. I'm feeling depressed. I'm like drinking more. I'm like moody, and you know, I went to go see like a therapist or whatever about it, and so we're talking, and he's kind of like, all right, well, like, what's your schedule like during like the winter? And I'm like, you know, I just go to my office, I go home, it's like dark, I'm like kind of depressed, I don't want to do anything, like, so I just drink, whatever. He's like, all right, like, what do you do during the summer? I'm like, well, after work, I might go play golf, go to dinner. I'm like way more active. He's like, okay, so you're way more active, you know, during the summer and you're not depressed. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you're not active during the winter and you are depressed. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, all right. He's like, well, you know, basically the idea was that there was less, I was more, the inactivity of just sitting there and not having anything to do. I was getting bored because of the hyperactivity of ADHD. And then he was like, well, have you ever been diagnosed with that before? And I'm like, well, yeah. And he's like, oh, what happened last time? So I've been like 2013, 14. And I'm like, well, you know, I became a millionaire for the first time in my life, started these multiple businesses. You know, he's like, did you have seasonal depression? I'm like, no. And he's like, what? And then what? I'm like, well, then I stopped taking it. And he's like, okay, like, well, maybe you should get back on your medication. And I was yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like, because I taken modafinil previously. So I got back on Adderall, and I just noticed that my, the mood swings went away. I was more attentive with like my family because my daughter's 5 now. She was a lot younger. And that was a big thing. He was really big. I think so many people take Adderall because like they think about it for like work, or they took it like in college, or when they were like, you know, working on some project. And so that's how, but really you should take it like if you have true ADD or ADHD, you should take it daily, because it's not just about like, you know, being productive with work. It's about being present with your family. And so when I'm not on it, it's like if I'm having this conversation and my daughter's yelling over here and something's going on over here, I'm like a hot mess, right?
When I'm on it, attention to everything.
Yeah, and I can't. It's like a sensory overload.
Wow.
And so I just became more present, more focused. Going out, like having like dinners, like at a loud restaurant. I used to I'd go to the bathroom just to have a minute to be in silence, without fail. I would just go to the bathroom so that I almost needed peace, because I had to my sensory component to calm down, because I was overstimulated. And a loud restaurant, right? Or a big table, a big group of people.
Right.
All that stuff went away. I drank less because I wasn't having as much social anxiety, because I could actually focus and have conversations. I actually stopped drinking entirely maybe 5 months ago.
Yeah, same here. He doesn't drink at all.
Yeah. So it just made a huge difference. I mean, and productivity too, and all of that.
Wow. But you don't think there's a way to treat it naturally, or do you think that's the only way? No,
microdose.
his ADHD.
He can microdose on ADHD.
Microdose. I actually started microdosing a little while back. Not all the time, but I have little 0.1 grams or
it
whatever.
helps with that.
That's a microdose,
Yeah. So, which has been cool. I mean, for me, it's almost and it does help a little bit. But I think you can do it naturally. But I personally, I take a pretty conservative dose of Adderall. I try to vary it so that I do take it every day, but I'm prescribed up to 30 milligrams, the total for the day.
But you take less than that.
Most of the time, yeah.
Okay.
And the most you can get prescribed is I think 120 or 140 or something crazy like that. So it's small. I know, so that's a crazy amount.
Yeah,
Right?
that sounds nuts.
That's
sheesh.
Yeah, and I was the whole time. I started at 20, I'm up to 30, which but again, I don't take the full amount basically ever.
So your body's not dependent on it.
Right.
Yeah.
And yesterday, for example, I took my full morning dosage, and I took basically a quarter of a quarter in the afternoon. So I took maybe at 17 milligrams yesterday. Because it's again, I don't want to be dependent and build that tolerance.
Right.
So for me, it's I can sleep on it. I go to bed 10 o'clock. I sleep 8 hours most nights.
Is there a side effect to it?
I don't really have one, honestly.
Oh, there's no burnout or anything?
I don't think so. I think it happens when I think most people don't take it regularly. Then they take 30 milligrams, which for me is, I won't take it all at once, but they take 30 milligrams at once. Then they feel they're on crack for a day or two. And then they're I don't know how you can take that every day, man. It's because I don't feel that way.
Is it a rush or something? I've never.
You're focused. You're locked in.
You're locked in. But,
so why does it feel like you're on crack if you're focused?
I mean, it's strong. It's a strong effect. When I went back on it in 2019 or whatever it was, I basically told myself I know I might feel a little cracked out, but I'm going to give it a week and just see. Because the first couple of days I did feel a little bit weird, but then your body acclimates to it pretty quickly. And then you don't feel weird after that, But a lot of people just take it sporadically, and they take way too much of a dosage.
Yeah.
So they feel they're overdosing on meth or some, you know what I mean? So I think that's a huge part of it.
So what's next for you? You made a ton of money, you got kids. What's the next goal?
Yeah, I mean, I think the agency side of it, I really want to do with AI. I think there's just so much opportunity here right now. So I really want to sell the agency for 9 figures, which is, it's not easy to sell an agency for that much, but I think we've got a lot of internal SaaS things that we're developing. We've got a lot of interesting processes. So I think that's one of the plays. And, besides that, I think just keep teaching, sharing, investing. I write a book soon with the help of AI. So
that'd be sick.
Yeah.
Now with agencies, the valuation, it's a multiple of revenue, right?
Yeah, but if you can position it SaaS.
With a SaaS, so then you'll get a 10 to 20x.
That's the hope there, yeah. It's the idea is almost a strategic buyer, because it's okay, we're we can just solve copy. We basically want to just solve copywriting, right? And there's stuff if you Jasper and things like that, but they don't really, they solve it for a small business owner who has a flower shop and just wants to send okay emails.
Yeah.
They solve it for that person, but they don't solve it for anyone who really wants to generate sales and drive revenue. It's really not, And so there's obviously the thought of we could just build the SaaS that competes with them. And I wanted to do that. My partners were a little more wary. So we might still go that route. But I think even if we just do it internally with the agency, so if someone, there's companies that buy all these agencies, right? They roll up agencies. So it's if they can take all of our sort of processes and proprietary stuff and then deploy that across 200 agencies that are all doing media buying, and suddenly we solve ads for 200 agencies.
Yeah, you guys improve the revenue and make their companies run way more efficient.
Exactly. Yeah.
You basically selling your business model.
Exactly.
Not the actual agency itself.
Copy is a huge issue too. Most people can't write at all. To be honest,
So,
I didn't do well in English class growing up.
Plus, I'm dyslexic, so I hate anything when it comes to overwriting or texting.
Bro, I was that kid that literally got caught. My teacher pulled me to the side. She said, "I know you plagiarized." you got detention. Like, literally, like she called me out. So and now there's ChatGPT and everyone's doing it.
I think AI is perfect. Yeah. I mean, that's a solid business model, especially when it comes to getting to, acquired by someone.
Yeah, for sure. It's hot. Any closing comments, man? That was great.
Appreciate that. One more controversial thing I've been thinking about recently is that like, this is sound really funny, but I was in a room of entrepreneurs recently and I was like, hey, how many of you were like ever right? And like half the room raised their hand. And like, I'm not talking like, Breaking Bad, but like you sold pot in high school, whatever it was, right? And like, the more I've thought about that, the more I'm like, we shouldn't shame people who are dealers, because I'm like, you know what? That's like the first entrepreneurial foray for a lot of people, right? What were they doing? They were learning like all these sort of like sales skills, like managing inventory, customer service. I know it sounds kind of funny, but I was like, you know what? Like
profit margin.
Yeah, profit margin, like all that kind of quality of product, right?
Structure, business model, where you're standing, where you're at, who's your customer, understanding your customer.
Yeah, so many things like that. Yeah. Like, and again, I remember one time I bought like a pound of like supposed to be good. It was like terrible and I had a really hard time selling it. So you were like, okay, well, we got quality assurance, like know the product before you buy it. Like there's so many lessons that you learn. And so I have another friend who kind of says be criminal, and I'm not saying be criminal like go break, like rob people, but like just like having that mentality of like take those lessons that you've learned in life, and even things that maybe like some people look at as being like they're afraid of or ashamed of from their past, and like really like think about all the good that came from that, and don't be so afraid to sort of almost like congratulate yourself and for what you've how that helped you get to the next level.
Absolutely. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that were dealers.
Majority of them,
I would say.
More than 50, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, they sold some kind of form of or did something illegal at some point.
For sure.
Entrepreneurs is just what they are.
They're willing to take a little risk,
that's entrepreneur is a nice way of saying risk taker.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wayne, anything?
Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks for tuning in. Digital Social Hour. See you guys next time.
Peace.